Hi everybody, Dana here. So I got a lot of questions about allergies, and so I want to address this question that no one has asked directly, but it's kind of around the periphery of a lot of these questions, which is what happens when you take an antihistamine. And several of you have a practitioner that's just suggested that you take an antihistamine and that's the solution to whatever problem it is that you're having. So here's some of the reasons why that might not be the ideal long-term solution. Certainly, if you're just miserable and you're suffering, it can be something that works in the short term. And, let's talk about that. So what is an antihistamine? There are several different types of antihistamines because there's 4 types of histamine, H1, H2, H3, and H4. So 2 of them are really related to what we would call like typical allergy symptoms, whereas one of them, H3, is more related to like production of stomach acid and things that we don't think of so much as being histamine related. And H1 is more related to neurotransmission and cognitive effects. So like how stimulated your mind is maybe is a good way to simplify that. And how stimulated your stomach is another way to talk about what the other one does. And then the other 2 are more related to typical immune allergy type symptoms that we might think of. So if you take an antihistamine and you suddenly feel an anti-anxiety effect, then you know that histamine is related to your anxiety. Or if you take an antihistamine and you're not getting migraines, you know that your migraines are related to histamine. If you take Pepcid AC for acid stomach and your allergies go away, you can see the link between those 2. The problem occurs that antihistamines have been shown in the short term to result in significant weight gain. So if you take them all the time throughout like 2 seasons of the year, maybe you have allergies in the spring and in the fall because you're sensitive to trees and mold or something similar, then the problem is that it's 10% of body weight is the average weight gain according to recent studies. So if you're a 200-pound person, that's 20 extra pounds. If you're a 150-pound person, that's 15 pounds. And the obviously all the issues that go along with that extra weight in terms of metabolic issues and the things that tend to be, that tend to follow along with those metabolic issues are quite serious. So that is definitely something to consider. And people that take antihistamines long term do have a higher risk of stroke. They have higher intraocular pressure, so like eye pressure. They have similar problems because it goes up if you do things that go up the nose, even the sprays, those can affect you cognitively. So higher rates of risks of things down the line if you keep taking them that aren't so great. Another thing that they've been associated with, antihistamines have been associated with bone loss or just less bone mass. So not only are you're gaining weight, you're not gaining weight as bone. You're definitely potentially even losing bone and just gaining other types of weight, maybe non-lean mass, I would assume. So those are some of the reasons why we might choose not to use an over-the-counter or prescription antihistamine like a Zyrtec or a Claritin or those types of products like Reactin. You might choose instead to use a natural type of product such as Butterbur, Nettles, Spirulina, MSM. There's many products, feverfew. There are lots of herbs that are quite helpful for allergies. I personally really like nettle tea. I find tastes quite herbaceous, but when you make it into iced tea and you add lemon and I use a little bit of stevia, but you can use any kind of sweetening. You don't need much sweetening, but just something to kind of just temper it. A little bit of honey is lovely. Honey has lovely enzymes and goes a long way because it's quite sweet. So this is a great way to make an iced tea, and it can be very anti-allergy as well. So these are just some of the considerations with regards to taking an antihistamine. Another really important point is that if you're trying to gauge if what you're doing is working because you're trying to go the natural route and you're having trouble with really determining if it's helping you or not, but you're still on and off with your antihistamines, you have to understand that when you take an antihistamine, hi kitty, when you take an antihistamine, you're not clearing out or getting rid of the histamine. It's not like taking Dow, which is helping to break down that histamine and get rid of it. If you take a Dow supplement, it is blocking the histamine from being experienced is what's happening. So it's just building up as long as you're taking that antihistamine. So if you take it because you're going outside for a 3-day experience in a field, you're having, or you're outdoors doing something, and you're taking in the cherry blossoms, for example. Right now in Vancouver it's cherry blossom season, and you're feeling very allergic, so you take it for 3 days. Well, the day that you stop, you might feel pretty terrible because all that histamine that you weren't experiencing is still in your body, and so it kind of hits you afterwards. And so if on the 4th day you're doing a natural nettle iced tea and it doesn't really feel like it's doing anything for you, you might want to give it a chance, because you're having a bit of a rebound effect from the antihistamines. So I just want to explain that that is something to consider. So if you're trying to wean your way off of antihistamines, some of the other things that you can try include homeopathic anti-allergy types of medicine. So you can pick these up in health food stores, sometimes pretty inexpensively, and that can work. You can also find ways to maybe taper off your antihistamines near the end before you stop using them, so that in the next following days it doesn't hit you quite so bad. And just also, when you're not experiencing the effects of histamine, still be mindful about what you're eating, or that you're not eating old food or leftover food or long cooked food like pot roast or things that have stewed for a really long time, because those long cooking methods and day old food and stuff like that is going to be higher in histamine. And then when you stop taking the antihistamine, you may regret that, may regret your life choices. So I hope that that makes sense with regards to antihistamines. Whether you ask the question or not, I think it will be helpful. So be sure to check out these other videos on allergies and related topics if that's something that you want to learn about right now, if you're having allergies. Thanks.